Are you a farmer or butcher ready to master direct-to-consumer marketing and meat success? Then you're in the right place. I'm Jared Aachen, the founder of ChopLocal. Each episode of this podcast features interviews with farmers and butchers who have built successful direct-to-consumer meat businesses, and they're going to share their secrets for success with you. From actionable tips to inspiring stories, this podcast has ingredients you will need to succeed in the meat business. After the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on social. And check out the rest of our educational resources at ChopLocalUniversity.com. Now, let's turn it over to my business partner, Katie, to get started.
Before we get into this next episode, I wanted to let you know about one of our other resources that we offer. If you are in a hurry to see meat marketing results fast, then the Meat Commerce Essentials course is perfect for you. It covers everything that you need to know to sell meat online successfully, and it's presented in short video snippets to get you the info that you need to put into action as quickly as possible. For a limited time, we're offering our podcast listeners $100 off the course using coupon code POD100. That's POD100. Just visit ChopLocalUniversity.com to find the course and be sure to enter POD100 at checkout. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Meat Success Podcast. I'm Katie Olthoff, the co-founder of ChopLocal and ChopLocal University. And I'm really excited for our conversation today because we are going to be talking about Pinterest. And Pinterest is something that I have used probably over the last 10 to 15 years. I don't remember exactly when it launched. But at times in my life, I've spent a lot of time on Pinterest, both from kind of a professional standpoint and a personal standpoint. So we brought in a Pinterest expert today to talk about how companies like ChopLocal or your farm, your butcher shop can use Pinterest in marketing. So thank you, Kate from Simple Pin Media, for being here today.
Yeah, you bet. I'm really excited. And as evidence of our conversation before we hit record, we already have some great ideas buzzing. So I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah. Kate and I always chat with my guests a little bit before I hit record, and Kate and I started chatting about keywords and ideas, and I was like, we need to start recording so that we get this so we get this audio so that we can share this with everybody else. Selfishly, I'm hoping to get some tips for ChopLocal, but I obviously want it to be educational for all of our listeners as well. So Kate, let's start. I kind of referenced this, and I think most of our listeners probably know this, but I started, my oldest is 17 and I started when he was a year old. 16 years ago, I started a mommy blog about our farm. Pioneer Woman was just hitting the scene and becoming popular. And I was like, if she can do this, I can too. She's obviously had a little bit different journey than I have. But I started a mommy blog way back then, and we have a farmhouse that was built in 1907. It was literally crumbling at that time. We did a lot of renovations. I did a lot of little projects around the house. And when I was actively blogging, Pinterest was the largest source of traffic to my blog. And so, like I said, it was part of my regular work routine. I would write a blog post about a project in my house. I would create a graphic that was optimized for Pinterest. I was part of these big group boards. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, but part of these big group boards with bloggers and Better Homes and Gardens and things like that. And then I went back to work full time. Eventually I joined ChopLocal. I'm not using it as a creator anymore. And honestly, I don't use it as much personally anymore. So one of the things that I wanted you to cover is kind of the history of Pinterest, how it's changed, and maybe more importantly, where is it now? Are people using it and what are they using it for?
Yeah, so 2010 is when it started, and it was this way to match up creative ideas with people who are going to put those ideas into action. And I was in the blogger scene about that same time too. You saw people really leveraging it, especially as Facebook had changed and we didn't see the rise of Instagram yet. So really all we had was Google, Facebook, and Pinterest. And what we found is that it drove so much traffic, and it was chronological in the beginning. And then it shifted to what was called a smart feed, which is now called a home feed. And it was still that same initial like mission, was to match up people's ideas with those who wanted to take action, right? So that is still what it is today. I like to tell people that they need to think of Pinterest as another search engine. It is not in the bucket of social media at all, which is where a lot of people they get tripped up, right? Because they think, well, this is what I do on Instagram. Am I supposed to do this on Pinterest? And we're going to say they're apples to oranges. We're going to set them apart. So the same happened on Pinterest with what happened to you. Is there was this arc of growth, and then into 2020 we see this huge explosion of users, double, because everybody's at home making sourdough bread. And then all of a sudden you see kind of this downturn as people return to work. Also, during this time, you see the rise of TikTok and then Pinterest trying to match that. So there's a little bit of an identity crisis kind of happening at that time. And the growth in North America, which we would include US and Canada, really kind of goes stagnant, and the global growth expands rapidly. So what we have kind of is this dip after 2020 into 22, and now we have this growth really taking off. They hired a new CEO. A lot of their C-suite now comes from Google, PayPal, Venmo. They're very much aware of e-commerce. And what they will say is that Pinterest is the great informer of a purchase. So people will plan 3 to 6 months in advance before they're going to either take a trip, make a recipe even. They meal plan every Sunday. For a lot of people in the food space, we saw them get a lot of traffic on Sunday because the Pinterest user was planning. They are planners. And so Pinterest said, we want to be able to match up that planning and that kind of purchase ideation into the actual purchase. So they started to marry more integrations with Shopify stores and things like that. So what started as a simple, hey, here's a cool idea, maybe you should do it, has really merged into, here's cool ideas. You should not only do it, but you should buy everything to help you do it.
Okay. All right. I just jotted down like several questions just from what you've talked about there. So you said it is more of a search engine versus a social media platform. And I like that because, as our listeners have heard me say many times, like, I am so burnt out of social media. I hate that I have to keep doing it over and over. And I really love a one-time project. I would love if I could sit down and make 10 pins based on blog posts that we've made, pin them all at once, and not think about it again for a week. And so is that a viable option, or do you need to be pinning every day? What's the strategy look like?
So I would say number one is you want to think of it as consistently investing in the platform. Think of it as like throwing another log on the fire. You're putting another pin in there. So there's a lot of tools. People will use scheduling tools to kind of drip out their pins. That's a really effective strategy instead of pinning all at once. I want to say this first too, before people think about that, is the call out of it being search engine versus social media. We say that because social media has a lot of dopamine hits that make you feel like you're actually doing something. You post on Instagram and you think, I got a like or I got a comment, but those people actually didn't take action. Whereas the Pinterest user base is less likely to comment or like, but more likely to take action. The action taking takes longer, which means what feels like you're getting good movement on Instagram, like, oh my gosh, it's working, is going to take 6 to 9 months to get movement on Pinterest. So having your eyes wide open right away that you are going to start marketing on Pinterest, and in the first 6 to 8 weeks, I've been doing this now for 11 years as a business owner doing management services, everybody hits this wall where they say, it is not working. It is not doing anything. I hear it all the time. And I tell people this is a slow burn, because once a pin gets going and it gets picked up, then it lasts forever. You can get traffic from something that was pinned 3 to 4 years ago still today. There is a big study that Tailwind, who is a scheduling tool, they did a deep dive study this last year, a 4-part, about what actually drives traffic on Pinterest. And they said 1 to 2% of your pins drive the majority of your traffic. So out of those 10 that you're putting on Pinterest, maybe only 1 works, which again is going to go back to that, it's not working. And I want anybody who's going to like listen to this episode, walk away and say, okay, Pinterest is right for me. I want them to be very clear-eyed that this is a 1-year investment, maybe a 2-year investment, just like you would do with Google, just like you would do with SEO. You are saying, I am taking the long road, and this is going to be something that I want to bring back a good return in investment. It's not going to feel good though, like what I'm doing on Instagram.
Yeah, I was thinking a lot about SEO when you were saying that because, again, I think about the blog posts that we've put on ChopLocal that use keywords that drive traffic to the website. Those don't pick up steam right away. It does take some time, and the pins are the same way. But I don't want anybody to go out and Google my mommy blog, but I know that there's still traffic coming from Pinterest.
I saw it. It was number one, by the way, when I Googled your name.
I went through a name change and kind of redesigned it, and it's not nearly as good anymore as it used to be, and I should hire somebody to fix it back up. But anyway,
it wasn't bad, but at least I found you, and then it led me to other places.
So let's talk about the types of things that people should be pinning if they're going to say, okay, I am willing to give this a try for a year or 2 years to see if I can get people to come to my site and buy my meat based off of it. What are the types of things that people should pin to their Pinterest? Is it recipes? Is it something different?
It is really what you think of the beginning of the journey that somebody's going to take with you. And so that could be having an explainer about, are you grass-fed beef? Are you grass-fed grain finished? Are you goat? Are you lamb? What it is that you are selling and really why people should buy it. Because remember, we're entering into the Pinterest journey very early in their planning stage. So they're asking a lot of questions. I like to say they are cold versus warm. They don't care about you at all. They care about your product. Your brand and who you are should not be anything that you start with. In fact, I was doing a profile review for someone within Pinterest yesterday, and I was going through her profile, and it was all about how her business worked, not what her business did.
How it could solve problems for customers.
Exactly. It's all about information and education. Think of the FAQs that you always get from your customers. Think of their really sticking points when they're deciding, do I have the budget for this? How can I afford this? There's so much that we can do to learn from what our customers are asking us and take that into content that can live on your website, but that can inform the Pinterest user. So that's what we really tell people to start with, instead of, sometimes people go straight to the product. They will just pin a picture of raw meat. It's like, well, I don't have any context for that. And the interesting thing about Pinterest is people don't read captions, whereas on Instagram, people read captions. People on Pinterest look at photos. That's all they do. Think of it as billboard advertising. You have 1 second or less to frame up when they are scrolling through the feed if your pin is going to be something they're intrigued by. So when we're doing informational, we would add text that gives just a little buzzy phrase or word so that they go, oh, what is the difference between grass-fed and grass-fed grain finished? I don't know. Click, go read, right? That is somebody that can then engage with that article and then go buy your product from there.
I'm also thinking about, you said don't go straight to just pinning the product, but I'm thinking about if you have a collection of products and maybe you make a blog post that says 5 easy ways to cook lamb that your kids will love, and then you have a blog post, you can still feature your lamb products, but you're solving that problem of like, I'm a mom. Are most Pinterest users women, by the way? I'm assuming.
Yes, they are, but more men are using the platform.
Starting to. Okay. But if I'm a mom and I'm looking for a variety in my meal plan, and I've got kids and I'm like, oh, lamb sounds really good, but I don't know how to cook it. That solves that problem for me, right?
Yeah. Can I make a suggestion on this really quickly? Just because when we've talked to food creators about this, one of the things that is really important to know is like what demographic and generation you're targeting. And I want to share a story from one of the conferences we were at. A woman talked about her Pinterest audience, and she said, I have boomers and Gen Z, and they're both doing the same kind of meal prep where they're trying to save money in order to do freezer meals. One is for a dorm room, one is for their little assisted living apartment. And she's like, it's really weird. I have both, but I don't have millennials and Gen X. And so that's an important thing to note, is that Pinterest is multi-generational. So even though Gen Z is kind of the most talked about, fastest growing demographic, pretty much on every social media platform, Pinterest is really seeing the rise of it on their platform, especially. That doesn't mean that is not your target audience, or it is. So just do a little bit of digging too once you use Pinterest. They have great analytics. You can go in and kind of find out some generational demographic information.
That is really, really interesting. And that's something that we've been trying to dig into a little bit more on ChopLocal. I'm going to have to go back and look now to see. I know when we talk about our sales, we know that boomers will spend a little bit more sometimes. It seems like maybe the empty nesters have some, disposable income. But when we talk about holiday sales, which when this episode airs, we'll be getting ready for holiday sales, we talk, meat is great for your college students. Like you said, dorm room, meal prepping, like meat is a great option for them. It's also a great option for your parents. It's like a great gift for almost anybody. But anyway, okay. I like that idea. So people don't read the caption, but is the caption important for that search capability within Pinterest? So again, if I'm a user and I'm saying meal prepping ideas, high protein meal prepping ideas, do we need to have those keywords in the caption for that reason?
Yes, and a few other places too. So the algorithm basically works in a way that it takes what the user's habits have been, where they've saved their, like what boards they save their pin to, what searches they do. And when they open up their Pinterest app, it is not a compilation of who they follow. It is a compilation of their interest and their searches, so that Pinterest can say, oh, you're really interested in beef. And I encourage everybody to try this. Search something, close the app, go back a couple days later, and you will see these pins spotted throughout your feed, because they want to make sure that that matches up. So in order to do this, we put keywords in a few strategic places. One is your profile. And I want to start with this with anybody who is actually new to Pinterest. Your Pinterest profile is like your storefront. There's a lot of things you can do with this. You can make boards, which that's the first place that you keyword is the board name, 3 to 4 words, natural sounding, nothing like cutesy or emojis. Just keep it real simple, right? Then you have the board description, 1 to 2 sentences, same thing, use keywords that support that. And then you have the pin title and the pin description that are on the pin. And so these 4 places tell that algorithm exactly where it is they can find that information for that end user. And so if somebody doesn't have their profile set up, follow the prompts to get it set up, get a business account, and create at least 5 boards. Following what I just said, you don't have to fill everything up right away. You don't have to create beautiful pins right away. Just create your structure. It's like you're putting shelves in a closet to begin to organize. And if you do have a Shopify store or another self-hosted store, you can get some of their integrations like verified merchant and connect your catalog, which will then automatically pin your inventory and update it every 24 hours. So not only pricing is correct, but inventory totals. So you're getting that secondary support. And because Pinterest really cares about shopping, that is something they're looking for, is stores to be connected. So yes, you want a keyword, but back it up a little bit and make sure your profile is set up with those keywords in there as well.
Okay. Don't use the cutesy names. I like that you said that. I'm going to have to go back and change some of my board names now, I think, because I am totally guilty of that.
Oh, everybody is. I've seen it all, right? I even saw one yesterday that was as seen on Instagram. I'm like, that tells me nothing. That tells 0.
Right. So you said that the home feed used to be like if I followed my sister and she was pinning a bunch of things for her baby's nursery, but now it's not based on who you're following, it's more based on your searches. So for a creator, meaning a business, does it matter how many followers I have? Does it matter how popular my pins are?
No. In fact, I did a podcast on my podcast a couple weeks ago where we actually took four of our clients same time frame and we compared their traffic with their followers and what the growth rate was like in October, November, December. And it was fascinating. Somebody with like 200,000 followers was only getting 9,000 sessions of traffic to their website. And then somebody with 16,000 followers was getting 100,000 sessions to their website. So we just have never seen the correlation between followers and sessions translate. So just put it out of your mind. It's a vanity metric. Don't even worry about it.
That's actually a big relief to me in kind of launching a new Pinterest because it's so different than it was when we started, you know? So, okay. Oh gosh, I've written down so many notes. So followers are not important. Setting up your boards with the keywords, using keywords in the captions is important. Thinking about the audience and the problems that you solve for them. And that's something that we kind of weave through when we talk about marketing all the time, but this is perfect. Let's talk about how just the bare bones of how do you get something onto Pinterest? How do you make a pin for the people who don't know how to do that?
Yes, for some reason, this is a sticking point for a lot of new people when they approach Pinterest. In fact, I got a question yesterday in the webinar I was teaching actually with Pinterest, and somebody said, they connected their product catalog and they said, aren't my products just going onto Pinterest? What is this unique pin idea? Like, why do I have to create another pin? Okay, so how it works is, well, actually, I'm going to give this suggestion first. If you have Pinterest on your phone, excuse me, I would suggest everybody open up your app and spend 10 minutes on it. Don't try to figure it out. Just explore, search whatever you want just to see how it works. And you'll find Pinterest for a business user is sometimes a lot easier to use on your desktop, where we don't see that with a lot of other social media platforms. Instagram is great for answering comments and stuff, but you can't upload anything on Instagram. It's just, you don't do it that way. You use your phone. So a lot of users on Pinterest obviously use their phone, but you as a business user can do this on your website, on your desktop. So you just simply, let me back up from here. Let's do a workflow. Let's say you have that article that you've written on your website that is the difference between grass-fed beef and grass-fed grain finished. With that, you want to create a Pinterest image. A lot of people use Canva, or there's tons of other tools, but I love Canva. Super easy.
So do I. And it has templates for Pinterest images too that are tall and skinny. Like is that still recommended for on Pinterest?
It is. Yep. 2 to 3. Yeah, exactly. So 1,000 by 1,500. And you can buy templates too from lots of places out there as well. We sell them. Etsy store sells them. It's great. Then you don't have to think about it. So you're creating this image that is eventually going to lead to that blog post. So what do you want to have in the image? What do you want it to say? And then you can add in your branding, your logo, whatever you want. So now you create that image. You download the image and you upload it to Pinterest with, I think it's create a pin, little plus button. And then you'll have these prompts that ask you for the pin title, the pin description, and the link. A very common first mistake is to miss the link. There's a lot of people who will pin things and they just forget to add the destination link. Don't forget that. You can also add alt text. This is for e-readers, just so that it's easier for people, accessibility, to be able to read the image. Add that in, simple sentence. And then there's a few other things in there, but I'm going to skip over that for now. That's the basic way to upload a pin, and then you choose the board that it goes to. If you had a board that is all about grass-fed beef, you would put it there. Even though you're talking about the differences between grass-fed, grain finished, that's fine. And then your pin lives out there. And let's say in a couple weeks you decide you want to change up that image. You can create a brand new image and still lead it to that blog post. But maybe you realize that first one didn't get any engagement. Maybe I need to change up the words a little bit. What's important to note is that Pinterest is reading in the algorithm the words that are underneath that you filled in, but they're also reading the image. They have a very strong visual search component. So they'll look, sorry, getting frogs in my throat. They'll look at the text on those images.
Interesting. Interesting. I didn't realize that they could read the text on the images. I also, do you recommend, when I do run our Facebook ads, for example, we test different creatives where maybe it has a darker background or maybe it has a lighter background. Do you recommend kind of testing those different ideas but linking it to the same blog post just to see which one?
100%, absolutely. And also for those who, like you, who do ads already, you can test with your Pinterest ads too as well, which is pretty fun. We see actually a lot of people who are doing mostly content creation. They prefer to approach Pinterest with more of an organic mindset. They want to get as much free traffic as possible. But those who have stores and tend to approach ads first mindset, organic kind of built in, they get really great results, and that supports what they're doing with their ads. So the return on ad spend for a lot of our clients that are pulling this together, we call it paid assisted, paid unassisted. That extra boost with organic, if people have seen ads, is really powerful. Then you can test too as well. We will play around with lots of different creatives, turn them off, turn them on. I will say this is a little bit deep into the weeds, but I won't go too deep. People who do run ads on Pinterest, they again are not like Facebook. They take a longer time to optimize, at least 2 to 4 weeks. And that is really important because people will say, oh, I want to make a change and it's been 3 days of running your Pinterest ad. No, don't touch it for 2 weeks. Just let it do what it needs to do to get warmed up, and then make one change and then make another change from there. But what we find is that people will leave their Pinterest ads on for a huge amount of time because they are seeing such good return on ad spend, these pins being saved, people clicking on them. It's a longer return. And then when you turn it off, the pin is still living on people's boards. It's not like it just goes away. It's still on the platform.
So, okay, so I could take that, what's the difference between grass-fed and grain-finished, and we could pin it, and we could put some money towards it as an ad, right? Boost it, kind of, if you will.
There's promoted pin and then Pinterest ads. So the boosting is promoted pins, but you can also do that in the ads dashboard. We kind of recommend the second, but yes, you can put money behind it.
Okay, so then if we put money behind it, it's going to show up more on people's home feeds, or it's going to be prioritized if they are searching, I'm assuming, for something related.
Yep, based on your interests or keywords that you set in targeting.
And then if they pin it to one of their boards, if they repin it, it does not disappear.
I know, it's the cool part about Pinterest ads.
I mean, I don't know why I didn't think about that before, but now that you say that, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense.
It's really great, especially if you're trying to drive a sales conversion or an email lead conversion, because again, back to the planning, people on Pinterest are planning 3 to 6 months in advance. So it is sometimes hard to get them to take an action, but if they can save it to be like, I don't want to forget this, or I want to revisit it later, which is kind of that top and bottom of the funnel there, then you have the opportunity to get that conversion down the line. Sometimes it might take 30 days after they see a pin, but that's pretty typical Pinterest user behavior.
So interesting. I'm thinking about for some of our kind of more advanced marketers that are using other strategies like meta ads, Facebook ads, for example. Pinterest can bring you that traffic in. They may not make the conversion, meaning they may not purchase right away, which is what you're saying, right? But then you can use the meta. If you have your meta pixel, they have that tracking data. You can retarget them with ads later on so that they will, it all just works together the same way that we use Google ads a lot of times for top of funnel. Pinterest ads can be that top of funnel too. That makes so much sense.
Exactly, because they are the same type of explorer. It's Pinterest users, just to paint the difference a little bit between Pinterest and Google, it's like Google users want an answer now. Pinterest users want an answer in 3 months. They're kind of gathering everything to their boards in order to make a decision. So thinking of that meal planning or stocking the freezer, or Q4 is such a good time to what you said about like buying beef, because Q4 is when those ads that are the conversion are the most powerful, because they're like, okay, now I'm ready to take action.
Yeah. I'm thinking back to that nursery example. You pin all of these pictures of what you want your dream nursery to look like, and then you get closer, and all of a sudden it's time to buy, and you come back to that board to look again and go, does it mention what paint color that is? Because I'm going to go to Sherwin-Williams and pick it out now, right?
Yes, 100% too. Here's another fun fact. 25% of the SEO value is driven to Pinterest boards, which means those Pinterest boards are ending up in Google searches, and people are clicking on it and going and searching through those boards and finding what they want. Even if they're not a Pinterest user, they can still see it. But a lot of Pinterest users will go, oh, yes, I'm going to save this to my board. I don't want to forget this.
Especially for a visual search. I'm having trouble thinking of an example that relates to meat with that, but my daughter is a dancer. She needs a costume for her solo. I start searching like purple jazz costume with feathers, and you know where I end up? Pinterest.
Yes, 100%. It's true. And I think it could be, I think to think about that angle as you are marketing your meat products is, how do you get in on that planning as opposed to just buying? And I think as shop owners, we're so conditioned to like purchase, get them through. But this takes us back a couple steps and goes, okay, how do we be a part of the education and the planning in order to be the resource, right? Like we work with a company who does a lot of mother of the bride, wedding wear. All of those people are planning for like years, right? But we also want to hit them at this point where sometimes they're like, okay, I've looked at everything and I want to know more about your shop. And then you might be the right person. And they're getting huge return on ad spend, especially you found out with like mother-in-law or mother of the bride outfits, because they can't find anything anywhere else. And then they come across this one on Pinterest and they're like, this is amazing.
One of the things that you just brought up in my mind, I'm thinking about objections that my farmers might have, and they are going to say, but I don't have all that stuff on my website. Like, I don't have these articles to even pin to right now. And that's a lot more work for me to create those articles. But I would come back to them and say, these things that Kate and I have been talking about that you can pin, those are things that you want on your website anyway. We've talked about that before where, you know, if you're transitioning from selling at the farmer's market face to face to selling online, you have to think about all those questions that people ask you at the farmer's market, and you need to have the answers to those questions on your website. So maybe your first step is thinking about those questions and writing the blog posts. And I know that that might seem a little bit overwhelming to you right now, but the great thing is that if you write that blog post, you can then use it as a pin. You can pin it to Pinterest. You could link to it on your social media. You can create, Instagram stories and things like that based off that blog post. And it's always going to be there for people coming to your website to get that information.
100%. We were working with somebody who makes handmade soaps, and they were doing a lot of the farmers market stuff, and she was transitioning to using Pinterest. And one of the things that she was having trouble with was this exactly. Like, how do I take what I do this way and put it digitally? And I said, just start thinking about those questions. Just start writing them down. It doesn't have to be this huge, massive blog post. It can just be something as simple as, here's a story of somebody who came to you and said your soap like solved all their acne problems. Tell that story and then title it how soap can reverse acne or help heal it. Those are what people want to read online, and it puts you in a position to get in front of a broader group of people than just the one-to-one at a farmer's market. One-to-one versus one-to-many. I would rather take my FAQs and do one-to-many because frankly, I don't want to be answering the question in my inbox 100 times over. Link to it. You are actually doing yourself a favor to take your top 10 FAQs and turn them into blog posts. Like, make work smarter, not harder. That's what this is first.
Oh my gosh, that's literally one of my key phrases, my philosophies that I keep in mind for marketing all the time. That's why I love SEO. That's why I love this idea. Work smarter, not harder. You have it there. I think about, Kate, you seem to know the beef world a little bit, but have you ever bought like a quarter of beef?
Yeah. My brother raises cows. So, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, great. So, but so many people, like I did not grow up on a farm. We had never done that before. I should have written a blog post about it the first time that I did it, But I had so many questions the first time that I did that. And I know that our farmers and butchers are dealing with those questions repeatedly over and over and over again. They are answering the same questions. And so that's perfect. You want that as a blog post or you want that page on your website anyway. And then you can create the pin and reuse that content. And like you said, instead of one on one, me and you at the farmer's market when it's raining, or probably not when it's raining, probably more likely when my kids are at, a soccer game and I'm stuck at the farmer's market, answering this question for the 100th time, you can send them to the website instead.
Well, and here I'm going to expand on it a little bit is that when you do this, think of it if there's an objection to Pinterest, right? I'll say this. Do it for Google, right? And that's a lot of what I started out doing as well for my own business is that I had the mindset of I'm going to do Pinterest, Google, and email.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where's the one main hub? My website. I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to convert it into a SEO blog post, and I'm also going to answer FAQs. Now, the only side step I need to do is create a Pinterest image. That's it.
And Canva makes it so easy.
So easy. We tell people to find what their template is. So reuse this template 3 to 4 times. And I get so much pushback to this too, which is funny from people who spend hours on Instagram. And we have run a time comparison many times in our business. And we have spent over 25 hours creating reels, doing videos, all on Instagram, answering comments, just a slave to the algorithm, compared to 9 hours on Pinterest. And that's with looking at analytics, and that's with optimizing, and that's with getting content ideas that actually serve the broader parts of my business. That to me is a no-brainer. Done with the 25 hours, and I'm going to invest in the 9.
Oh, you got me sold. I'm ready. Like, I'm going to get off of this call and I'm going to be back to making my pins. I mean, on ChopLocal, we have really benefited from SEO because I can tell a little bit about SEO, but because we have all these farmers or butcher shops, let's say they're all selling brisket, we have a ton of pages that talk about brisket, and Google's like, wow, they must know a lot about brisket, And so we've created blog posts for the purpose of Google along the way. And now, as we've started to work on Pinterest a little bit more, I would just open up our blog and I go, okay, what's the next 5? And I go to Canva and I create my pin and boom, boom, boom. And Pinterest does have a scheduler within it as well, I found. So I can schedule those out. And I'm only doing 5 to 10 at a time, so I don't know what their limit is on scheduling, but it's it's been it's kind of a fun workflow for me. I quit chasing comments and likes years ago. I'm a little bit older than a lot of the great social media users of today. We have a younger gal, Sierra, on our team that does our social media, and she does a great job. But I'm like, no, I did that 10 to 15 years ago. I'm kind of over it. But Pinterest, I can still get behind. So,
yeah, it's true. And I think especially when you marry both the merchant and the content creation, I see it as such a win-win for those who sell their products online, because what a better way to broadly get it out there to the masses that can go onto other platforms. That's the thing that I think people have this. It's a common frustration that we hear. People are like, Pinterest feels so confusing. And I say, like, step back and go, it's just a search engine. The confusing part is that it takes a little bit longer. You don't get as much engagement, so you feel like you're not doing enough, but I promise that you are. It's just keep putting another log on the fire, and over time it will build up, especially if you're starting to pay attention to who that Pinterest audience is, because the Pinterest audience is going to be different than the Google audience, and they might just need something a little bit different, but it takes that investigative work that really only takes takes an hour. We tell people don't look at your stats all the time. Once a month, top of the month, look at it, look back at what worked, what didn't work. And once a year, do a deep dive that's maybe a little bit longer, kind of looking at it from a 10,000 foot level to say, okay, is this still working for me? Is it driving traffic? Am I seeing sales? And the dashboard within Pinterest now is so good, especially when you connect your shop, you could see all of that. So it will tell you what's working and not working.
Do you have an idea, top of your head, what like the cost per click is if you are using Pinterest ads?
It really depends on budget. It's a little bit tough. Yeah, it's more you want to look at. We tell people to start, if you're going to do ads, to spend between 25 and 50 a day and then kind of build out from there. And then once you kind of see the return on ad spend at 1x or 2x, then you can scale from there and really double down on those ads. And then it depends on your cost per product.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that there's a lot of pieces. It's not just getting the ad formulated just right or getting it set up just right, right? There's a lot of pieces further down the funnel that have to be in place. So
And they have added in, I think it was last year, they've added in what are called Performance Plus campaigns that are built by their AI engine. You can have it do it for you 100%, or you can do like pieces and parts of it. Like we recommend Performance Plus when it comes to the budgeting and the ad spend, but we might not recommend it in the targeting because maybe you know you're targeting a little bit more. So we like that they are trying to be more and more friendly and iterate on it, because Pinterest ads they were hard for a while. They were not easy. No one liked them. No one liked the dashboard. They had a rough go, but they really listened to that feedback and then really upped their game within the last 2 years.
cool. It's been neat for me to see. Like, I was a beta user of Pinterest. Pinterest was developed here in Des Moines, Iowa, I think, if I remember correctly. And so, like, just to see it from the beginning to now, all of their changes that they've gone through, and like you said, listening and adapting and making it work for today.
Yes, 100%.
The other topic I wanted to hit on before we wrap up is most of our farms and butcher shops, all of them that sell on ChopLocal, and a lot of them that are listening, can ship their meat nationwide. So they don't need to worry about geographic location necessarily of who they're attracting. But what if they were just, I say just, but this is a big deal too. What if they are a local business that is only operating in one area and, they're not shipping their meat? Can Pinterest still be valuable to them? And if so, what would be different?
Yeah, so we tell them it's going to depend on the market a little bit. So here's a great example. Let's say you have a person who sells hair products and they do hair tutorials and things like that, and they're able to sell these like nationwide. And then there's a person who cuts hair locally, but they only sell the products in their salon. Option B is going to be a lot harder to market on Pinterest. And that is simply because the only places we see local marketing really take off is with travel and weddings and photography too as well, because people will choose to go to the location to utilize the services in order to facilitate the event. When it comes to buying products locally, it gets a little bit trickier, and that's where you're going to leverage Instagram a little bit more, or Yelp or Google, because people are willing to take action now and drive to your store. Whereas the planners, they're probably not going to. So if you don't have any plans of expansion into shipping nationwide, we often tell people don't put a lot of your resources. You can certainly set up a profile if you want to, especially if you're seeing that maybe your town or your city is having a boom in destination of purchasing these types of foods. But if that's not the case, then I would probably either skip it or just set up your profile.
Interesting. I am thinking of a few use cases where, like, we have at least a couple brick and mortar farm shops that are in touristy areas. Like, one is on the way to, between Detroit and Lake Michigan, I think. And it's a lot of people going to their summer homes on Lake Michigan. And I could kind of see them doing something that's, 5 local businesses to visit while you're in the area, or Also, are lists like that, are numbers still really popular on Pinterest?
Numbers are still popular. They will never die. But you know what? It would be cool for a location like that is to leverage the social media content by putting it on Pinterest. So if somebody has tagged you in their video on Instagram, save that to Pinterest and make the destination link your website, right? And then label your boards around that city or that destination. So you're not necessarily having to create your own content. If you do create your own content, that's great as well. So destination marketing is definitely something when it crosses over into the travel space that we tell people, yes, leverage it as much as you can. But if you don't have that component, it's going to be a little trickier.
Gotcha. So when it's crossing over into the travel space like that, or maybe even agritourism, five farms that you like, and maybe it's not worth putting in that year or two to get that, but I like that idea of if people are tagging you or, we work with micro influencers that will cook with our meat. So can we just take that reel that they create and upload that to Pinterest?
Definitely. And sometimes if you're working with those micro influencers, add it to the media kit, add Pinterest, and look to see if they do have a Pinterest account because you would want them to pin something to Pinterest as well. But you can certainly do it. We worked with an Italian foods brand for a while and they had a ton of content creators that would create. And so we would pull in their content for the Pinterest account. Such a good use of squeezing everything from that orange.
This has been such a great conversation, Kate, because I feel like I've been sleeping on Pinterest a little bit and I should have started 5 years ago pinning. I did some little tests 5 years ago, honestly, when we launched ChopLocal, but I didn't stick with it long enough to get, that 6 to 8 weeks initially and then go longer to really get the traffic. And now I wish that I would have, because imagine where we would be right now.
But it's also like, instead of seeing it as just Pinterest, see it as another like leg of the stool to support what you're doing in Google, to support what you're doing in, even with your Shopify store or whatever. Just see it as like, I'm amplifying what I'm already doing instead of just doing something standalone. And that's marketing I can get behind when I know that Pinterest is supporting Google or YouTube is supporting Google. That's what I want instead of just one thing over here.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you have totally sold me on that. This is definitely falls in my work smarter, not harder. And I know I mentioned Sierra. Sierra's been creating a lot of food content and reels for us on Instagram. And when I explained to her how we could then create a blog post about that and then we could pin it, she's like, you mean we can get all of this extra, not necessarily traffic, but like this extra push from me creating this one reel? I can use it in all these different ways, in different content ways. That was exciting to her too.
And can I tell you a tip too? Because you can connect Pinterest and Instagram to auto share your reels to a secret board on Pinterest. And then she can just take it, reframe it, because you don't want hashtags on Pinterest. You want a great description. The problem, there is this great auto integration that Pinterest came up with about a year ago between Pinterest and Instagram, because they realized a lot of people who are content creators did not have a website. They just had Instagram. So this created a way for them to share their content to Pinterest, which is awesome. But some things just don't fit. So we tell people you can connect the two accounts, have it auto pinned to a secret board so nobody sees it, have her go in and adjust it, and then put it to a public board.
So smart and efficient, and that's what I love. Okay, so Kate, where can people find out more, or if they wanted to hire you to take care of this, because you obviously know what you're doing, where should people look for you online?
Yeah, so our website is just simplepinmedia.com. And if they're listening to a podcast, we have the Simple Pin podcast that's been going now for 9 years, I think. I have to keep track of it. Don't start at the beginning because Pinterest has changed in those 9 years. Just start now and work backwards. But I also have a lot of educational YouTube videos as well. So you can search Simple Pin Media there too.
And if I remember correctly from your website, we have Chop Local University with little courses about, a lot of our farmers are kind of DIY marketers. They like to take it in and then, but you have those courses as well, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, we have the Simple Pin Shop. Actually, it's simplepinshop.com. And we have micro courses because we learned a long time ago when we sold our education in a big course or a big membership, it was just too much for people. They needed Pinterest in pieces and parts. So that's what we have there is you can learn about images or you can learn about ads or you can buy support tools. So you can find all of that there.
I love that. I hope this is the beginning of a good partnership for us. But yeah, we do the same thing where we give people the option. They can work with us and have us take care of things for them, or they can watch the courses, learn it themselves, and do it themselves. Same thing with Simple Pin Media. So, is there anything else that we didn't hit that you feel like we need to hit before we wrap up?
No, I think I would just say get curious about Pinterest and spend those 10 minutes on the app just to frame up how it works, especially if you have not used it. It's really important to use it, see how it works, because you can have a lot of fun with Pinterest and you might even find yourself enjoying it.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Meat Success. We hope this episode gave you fresh insights and inspiration to beef up your meat marketing. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, follow us on social, and share with your fellow farmers and butchers. Have questions or ideas for future podcasts? Reach out to ChopLocalUniversity.com. Until next time, remember, there's more than one recipe for meat success.